What is the best AI research assistant for academics? Because I'm an academic, I work in the humanities. So, what is the best AI to help me be more productive and more efficient? Well, I've been on a sabbatical and done a bit of a deep dive into AI platforms. And in this video, I'm going to share with you what I've learned. First up, there is Monica. No, I don't mean that memorable character from the 1990s TV show Friends. Rather, I mean a app that plugs into Chrome and is an interface between you and various AI programs that can help you get a lot of things done very quickly and all at the tip of your fingers. So let me show you how Monica works. You've got this plugin here that goes in neatly into Chrome, and all you have to do is just click on it, and then it brings up the whole suite of options. So you can go into a full page, so it's all in front of you. You can write, do grammar checks, translate, search, mind map, get some PDFs. There's even an AI detector. And if you have the right plan, there's image generation and video generation, design tools, and all sorts of great things. But if you go down into the chat box, let's put something in here like, oh, what would an academic want to do? Maybe we want our faculty to be invited to a seminar about, I don't know, let's make it feedback. Let's make it feedback, because students love feedback and academics have got to learn how to do really good feedback. So we want to invite our colleagues to a seminar on giving students feedback. We want this to be short, to the point. It'll be an email. Let's make it professional rather than witty, and let's generate it. So there we are. It's going to come up with an answer now, and this is a template, a draft of an email that we can curate, we can edit, and we can send it to our colleagues to come to a meeting. Now, you can look broadly as well. You can see the various things you can do on the full page, audio, video, discover function. That's very helpful as well. And just look at all the different options you have here. You've got all the different devices, plugins, particularly AI and the humanities. You want to humanize stuff. That's very, very important. The reason I like Monica is it provides a really good, simple, and accessible interface between you and a whole bunch of AI functions. So with Monica, you click on the little icon and then it's all before you. Anything you want to do. You want to write something like an email, a tweet, a blog post, or come up with a title or search something, it's there. You want to translate, you want to upload a PDF and interrogate it, you want to generate a quick image, it's all there. It's a very good, accessible tool, which, to be honest, I think Monica would easily account for about 60 to 80% of the tasks that I want to do with AI. So it's got a lot of utility, it's very accessible, and like I said, what you're really getting is the interface. Monica doesn't do anything that ChatGPT can't do, or Claude or Perplexity, but what it gives you is a ready-to-use interface that is right there and ready to go. Now, as much as I like Monica, there are a couple of things I do have to mention. They are always trying to get you to buy the plan, which is $16 a month. And to encourage you to buy the plan, often there'll be a slight delay between 5 to 15 seconds when you put something into the chat box. There's also certain functions like video creation. In order to use, you need to upscale to the paid plan. One last thing to note, as much as I like Monica for its interface and utility, I do have to mention that a number of AI platforms have begun doing something similar, having this sort of assistant that sits there ready and waiting on your taskbar for you to use. So if you know anything about Perplexity, they have an AI assistant that comes with its own browser. I believe Claude is also creating a plugin that will fit snugly into Chrome. And of course, there are going to be imminently an option in Google Gemini where you can have the AI search and summary, but there will also be a Gemini assistant there waiting for you to use, similar to Monica. All things considered, however, I have found Monica to be a very useful AI tool, something of a first responder to my AI needs. But sometimes my needs go beyond Monica. I need something more specific, more bespoke, perhaps something specifically designed for academics like me. And that brings us to the next AI platform, SciSpace. As an academic, one thing I'm very much looking for are tools and platforms and programs that are tailor-made for academics. Now, there's a number out there. I think a very popular one is Jenny AI, but one that I've come across and I really do like is SciSpace. Now, SciSpace is an AI platform geared towards academics and academic tasks. It's also very good value for money, whereas most AI providers charge about $20 US a month for their paid or their pro models. SciSpace is only 12 US dollars a month. So in terms of bang for your buck, it's pretty good, and it does have a pretty good bang if you ask me. So let's have a look at some of the features of SciSpace that I found useful in the sorts of things that I do. Okay, so here we are at the interface, and let's go to literature review, because, as academics, we're always reviewing literature. This is a place where you can begin to develop and create and curate your own literature review. And if we look at the landing page of SciSpace, look at the great things it can do here. It can do deep review, review literature, analyze data. It's got Google Scholar. It's got grants. This is a place you can go to start writing grants for various projects and things you've got going on. Another useful function in SciSpace is its paraphrase function. Often as academics, we need to take a quote, a block of text, and we need to paraphrase it. Now, sometimes that's because we want to put it into our own words, or sometimes it's because we want to take something that's very dense and complex and simplify it. Well, this is something that SciSpace specializes in. What is more, you can arrange it so the paraphrase can be varied in length. You can have a long paraphrase or a short paraphrase, and you can also determine the level of variability. Do you want to try stick as close to the original wording, or do you want to be a little bit more free and flexible in the arrangement? Well, that's what you can do in SciSpace. It gives you the option to take complex paragraphs and put them in a different, often more simpler way. Now, in what I do, this can be very useful. So in my area of expertise, we have some very famous German theologians like Karl Barth. And when I want to explain Karl Barth to undergraduates or seminary students, often what I've got to do is find a way to explain the dense and overpoweringly German mindset of Karl Barth or someone like that, and put it in language that the average layman can understand. That's where something like the paraphrase function in SciSpace, I think, will be very useful. But let me give you a warning. This is something that could be misused for plagiarism. That's not what you should be using it for. Remember, stay classy, keep it all legal and virtuous, my friends. But there are legitimate places where you'll find the paraphrase function to be very, very helpful. You can also organize the search functions so it specializes in academic sources. It won't go through Reddit or Blue Sky Social. You can organize the search functionality so it will specialize in academic resources. Things like Academia EDU, Internet Archive, Google Scholar, Google Books, or whatever specialist databases you want it to look at. You can specialize your search and research all in these places. Okay, we've done our literature review and paraphrase. Let's do some actual research. I asked SciSpace, I asked her the question to do a bit of a deep dive in a figure called Paul of Samosata, his relationship to Queen Zenobia, and give me a bibliography at the end. And I have to tell you, I was pretty impressed with what it came up with. It gave me a bunch of great resources, a terrific summary, and then all the way down at the end, it gave me a pretty crack-a-lackin' bibliography to go with it. In terms of a starting point, and that's what I wanted an entree into this topic, it gave me an excellent starting point. So if you're beginning your research, you want to find a tool that will help you get your research done faster, more efficiently, and I believe as well more accurately, then something like SciSpace will be for you. And like I said, it's quite economical. At 12 US dollars a month, it is something of a bargain. So SciSpace is a less well-known AI platform, but it clearly punches above its weight. Definitely one you would want to consider, especially if you're using AI on a budget. And then there's Claude, which reminds me of a 1970s comedy sitcom called And Then There's Maud. No relationship, and I digress. Claude is easily one of the premier AI delivery programs that are out there. I've got some friends who work in the AI industry, and I asked them, among insiders, what is the AI platform people should be using? And they tell me Claude is definitely up there. It has particular value for people who are engaged in coding. So if you're developing programs, creating apps, you're trying to multiply your gaggle of agents and all those sorts of techie things, from what I hear from AI insiders, Claude is definitely the place to be. But even if you're not into coding and software and programming creation, I have to confess, Claude is among the best of AI platforms for research and writing, and I definitely think it is worth considering. It's something to use because I've got a lot of value out of using Claude myself. Let me show you how it works. Let's jump in at Claude. You've got the basic button there where you can upload things, files, screenshots, something from GitHub, or use a project. Now, these projects are very important. I use it for special things I'm working on. You can see there I've got a project on the go about the Roman Empire in the 3rd century. So we'll come back to projects in a minute. You can also use different styles. Now, for the styles there are, you can see the way it will deliver the content of the searches. There's normal, learning, concise, explanatory, but you can also create your own style. What you can do is create a database of your own material, your own emails, tweets, blog posts, writings, whatever it is. You can create a database and ask Claude to generate answers to queries based on your own style, based on your own voice, which means you're effectively training Claude to answer search queries the way you would, or using your own language. So, that is very helpful. Let's look at some of the other things Claude can do. It can help you write stuff, help you learn stuff, how to make paella, learn the banjo. But in addition to that, what I really like are the ways you can do life stuff. Now, this might be very cheesy for a lot of people, but imagine this. Imagine you've got a big day ahead of you, okay? So you've got to get to college, get to university, wherever you are, and you've got to teach a class, go to a meeting, you've got to clear some emails, do a little bit of marking, write a report, and then at the end of the day, you've got to pick up kids from school, start thinking about dinner, and you just don't know where to begin. You're having one of those I can't even days. What you can do in something like Claude is put all your tasks in there, the amount of time you have, the resources you have, even tell it where your headspace is at. What are your energy levels like? And Claude will then create an itinerary for you, and it will recommend how much time you should do on certain tasks, where you should put the hardest thing of the day, perhaps. And I find that very helpful. Now, it may seem like, but come on, Mike, that's just basic adulting skills. But, remember, if you have a day where it feels like, I just can't face it today and I need someone how to do me, well, this is a kind of way of doing that. It's a way of providing an outline for your day to get the most out of your day. And in my experience, this has been very helpful for people with things like ADHD, or who struggle with some level of executive function, or some people who just have a difficult day of adulting every now and then. Now, I'm very aware of letting AI regulate your life might seem to put you at risk, as if you're, 2 updates away from Claude telling you, I'm sorry, Michael, I can't allow you to leave the office until you've finished your emails. Or, Claude or some AI bot saying, yes, Michael, I had to delete your wife's phone number from your phone. I feel like she's coming between us. But That's future Mike's problem. So before the machines rise up and control our lives, this is definitely a useful tool you can get into to help you just organize your day. And of course, with Claude as well, it's got a number of search models. Perhaps the most used one, or maybe one of the premier ones, is Opus 4.1, but recently released is Sonnet 4.5. I've seen a lot of people raving about how good that is as well. So what is Claude good at? Well, let's ask Claude. Let's find out what Claude can actually do and do well. Well, according to Claude, it's very good at conversational intelligence, analysis and reasoning, content creation, I agree with that, and of course, code and technical work. Indeed, Claude is the AI program of choice for people who engage in coding. It also says it focuses on truthfulness, safety conscious, contextual adaptation, very important these days, and current information. So I think all those things actually hold true, and Claude's description of itself is quite fair. One of the best things about Claude is its projects. Now, projects is a bit like gems in Gemini or GPTs in ChatGPT. It's an area, it's a space where you can go to work on and develop things. Something like a sandbox where you can ferment and curate ideas and create, quite literally, projects. Now, I've been working on a project in Claude on the Roman Empire in the 3rd century. And what I've been doing here is uploading PDFs, uploading my own writing samples, bibliographies, and then basically working on them, bring them into relationship with each other, testing out ideas, doing searches, brainstorming, developing outlines, testing out the wording, seeing how it sounds and how it feels. So it's a great little laboratory to do my research, and I have found it incredibly helpful, and it really is a great way of bringing together all the things you're working on at one time so they're all talking to each other and they're all interfacing. Now, if you do have projects, then that means you can create artifacts. Basically, artifacts are the outputs you can get from your project. So let's say you've been working on a chapter about, I don't know, the Roman Emperor Constantine. You've been developing it, but then you think, it'd be good if I could create an outline of this so it becomes like a lecture. So you can create dot points of your lecture. Or maybe you want to send an email that mentions this, or you want to create a PDF, or you want to create spreadsheets or a slide deck or something like that. That's what you can do in artifacts. It gives you a whole bunch of outputs, things you can develop, documents and apps where you can have outputs from your various projects. That's not something I've spent a lot of time doing, but from all the examples I've seen, it's pretty crack-a-lackin'. So that's Claude. It does a lot of things really well. It's great for coding, great for content creation, and it's also an excellent place to begin, design, and prepare projects in their functionality called projects. Now, for me, it came down to one of 2 different AI platforms for which I was going to take out a paid subscription to. So I was about to put down some hard cash and take out a subscription to an AI service. I was just about to click on Claude to do it, but then I had some last minute thoughts. At the final moment, at the very death, I decided not to go with Claude. Not because there's anything really, really bad about it, but there was a number of lingering doubts that came out. Now, first of all, I do think it is probably more geared towards coding than anything else. Yes, it's very good at content creation, but I think you're going to get the most benefit out of this if you're doing a lot of coding or a lot of software engineering and development, that kind of a thing. The other thing I have to note is that Claude doesn't do multimodalities. It's not going to generate images and video for you. Now, maybe that's something you don't want or need, but every now and again it's useful to have something that can create an image or it can create a clip of something. When it comes to images and videos, maybe ChatGPT or Google Gemini is better, at least in my experience. There was a tinsy little ethical concern I had as well. Claude recently got sued for $1.5 billion for using pirated books to develop its LLMs. Now, Claude did not steal or pirate the books themselves, but they did make use of them in developing their LLMs. And for that, they were found guilty in a federal court in the United States and sentenced to pay a fine. And the fine will get bigger and bigger if they don't pay up soon. So that was a little bit of a ethical concern. Are they developing their AI resource in an ethical fashion? And I think Anthropic has got some questions to answer there. Notwithstanding those aspects, I do like Claude. It came in number 2 in terms of what I'm looking for. I still make use of it. I still use the free version. But when push came to shove, rather than take out a paid subscription to Claude, instead I took out a subscription to Perplexity. So let's now talk about Perplexity. Now, Perplexity became prominent in the earliest days of all the AI releases because it was one of the few AI platforms that could search the live internet. Maybe you remember when a lot of the AI programs were released, they could only search the internet up to 2002 or 2023. I think that's largely changed now, but Perplexity has always specialized in interrogating the live internet. So you're getting real-time information. The other thing Perplexity has always been good at is telling you the sources of its search. So it tells you where it gets the information from. So you can actually go back and check the accuracy of what Perplexity is telling you. And as you can all imagine, when it comes to AI, verification, truth, and reliability are very important. And that's where I think Perplexity does some of its best work. But there is something even better here. If you work in education, if you work in a university, a college, a seminary, even a high school, I believe, you can apply to get a free version of Perplexity Pro. You just go into the subscribe area, and if you work in education, you put all your information in, and they will give you a free version of Perplexity Pro. That is fantastic. Now, you've got to prove that you work in education, so you might have to upload a copy of your, ID card at a college or university. You might even have to provide something like a payslip. But if you're happy with that sharing of your own private information and data, you should be able to get access to Perplexity Pro for free. Unless, of course, you're me, because I went in, I tried to do it. I applied for Perplexity Pro. Now, I don't know whether it's because I've got red hair, I'm Australian, or because I work in a theological college, but they wouldn't give me the free version. And I was pretty miffed about it, but I desperately wanted Perplexity Pro so much, so I went in anyway and bought a paid subscription. And I have to confess, it's been worth it. If I could get the free version of Perplexity Pro, I probably would splurge and take out a paid subscription to Claude. But since I'm only going to pay for one AI platform, I've decided to go for Perplexity. That's the one I'm recommending. That's the one I get the most value out of it. Let me explain to you why. Perplexity has things like Discover. Now, this is a great place where you can get your news. I love news in finance, geopolitical affairs, AI news, generally what's going on in the world. And you can set up your news so it comes to you with the contents and in the form that you like. Another thing I like is incognito mode. What incognito mode is, you can put all your searches into Perplexity, and after 24 hours, it will delete them all. Now, that's not because I'm up to any malicious work or subterfuge or doing anything necessarily illegal or immoral, but all the searches you put into Perplexity will then be listed on the sidebar, and it just gets so full and it's so messy, and most of it's, mundane and prosaic stuff like, where's the best place to find a cheap pair of tennis shoes in Doncaster or something like that. That's not what I want to do all my clutter with. Now, concerning the main functions in Perplexity, you've got the basic search here. You've got a deep research, so it spends a bit more time thinking on the idea. You've got labs, I'll talk about labs more soon. And then you've also got the areas that you want it to do the search. So you can search the live web. You can specialize in academic resources, a little bit like SciSpace. You can also focus on searching social media, so you can get the great wisdom of Twitter, Facebook, and Reddit if you like. Now, here's a good feature of Perplexity. You can choose the model that you want to do your search or inquiry with. Now, their indigenous model is Sonar, but you can also search something like Claude Sonnet 4.0, Gemini 2.5, GPT-5. In other words, even though you're in Perplexity, you can use the language learning models of different AI platforms. Like I said, Claude, Gemini, ChatGPT. But you've got to remember something. It's not exactly the same as going into ChatGPT and using their AI platform, or Claude or Gemini, or whatever it is. That's because there is always a degree of fine tuning when you're using it on this particular AI platform. So think of it this way. Imagine each search model, each LLM, is like a glass of soda. What you're effectively doing is putting your straw into that glass of soda and drinking from it. But the straw has its own texture and its own flavor that does kind of affect or influence the taste, the flavor of what you're getting out of it. So yes, places like Perplexity and also with Monica, you can access different AI models, but the fine tuning is often a little bit different. So it's not strictly the same. But I admit this is a good feature of Perplexity. You can use a number of different models for the way you do your searches, something you should play around with and find the one that suits you the best. Now, one thing that makes Perplexity really useful is it has this function called Spaces. Now, Spaces is a bit like Claude's projects or Gemini's gems. It's areas where you go to develop things. Now, I've been developing a whole bunch of tasks and ventures I'm doing. One of them is looking at my YouTube channel. Now, what I've been trying to do is find a way to improve my YouTube channel. So what I did is I went into Perplexity, I went into the labs area, and I said, I want you to imagine that you are a YouTube consultant and you're helping me grow my channel, improve my channel. So what I did, I went into YouTube, I downloaded all of the metrics, got the statistics from which videos are the most watched and the least watched, and I just put that all into Perplexity, and I said, give me some advice based on what you found here. Now, some of the advice was pretty general, pretty, prosaic, like have a good thumbnail, get people's attention in the first 8 seconds. I kind of already knew that, but it also gave me a lot of specific and targeted advice. It had really done the homework, looked at the metrics and said, these are the things that are clearly going well. These are the sort of things you need to do if you want to get more viewers, if you want to increase the viewer time in your videos. Now, some of the things I'm not going to do because it told me to do things like make more videos engaging with Mike Winger. Mike Wing is a Christian YouTuber. He did a video on a couple of things that I wasn't terribly in agreement with, so I did a response, and that got some good views, some good mentions, some good shares, but, I'm not going to base my scholarly life on trolling one particular guy, even if it is going to result in a few good views. Generally, the advice I got from Perplexity was like that of paying a YouTube consultant. It told me what was going well, what I could improve, and it told me where the sweet spots were for how I create and develop videos and how I promote them. Another great thing I was able to do in Perplexity Labs was, can't believe I'm saying this, develop my own app. Now, I'll be honest with you, I'm not a techie person. I don't know the difference between an algorithm and Al Gore with rhythm. I don't know the difference. But I went into Perplexity Labs and I said, look, this is what I want to do. I want to create a type of app or a program that'll be a place where biblical scholars like me can access a bunch of resources. So where you can get things like Bible Gateway, access to some online Bible commentaries. But you've also got things like ChatGPT, Claude, Perplexity there waiting for you. Have a look at something where there may be some ancient biblical manuscripts I can look at as well. Then something that's practical for me, my students, my colleagues, if they want to play around and do a bit of writing and research. So I put that in, and the result was an app I created called Tertius. Now I think this is pretty good. This really did blow my mind. I created this little platform called Tertius, and it's got a number of key functions. You can see I've got access to Bible Gateway, Academia, Edu, the Biblical Studies website from the UK, which is filled with a whole bunch of articles and essays in published places. You've got Best Commentaries. That's a great website. You can see all the things I've got there. So I had a lot of fun playing around with this. I did have to take out the commentary by Matthew Henry that it had embedded for some reason. I mean, that really did do my head in. But then, just look at the things I've got there. You can use this for Bible study. You can use this in Biblical Scholar mode. You can use this in Sermon Builder mode. And this is what I did in about 10 minutes of playing around with it. And if this is what I could do in 10 minutes, imagine what I could do if I fiddled around with this for about 10 hours. I mean, seriously, the limits are as much as your imagination. So Perplexity Labs gives you a place where you can develop some of the ideas and see these far-off concepts magically materialize in front of your eyes. I mean, if you've got an idea in somewhere like Perplexity Labs, you can make it come alive. Let me give you another example of something I did in Perplexity that has a direct application to my teaching. Now, one of the things we're trying to do these days is get away from essays and exams because they are very AI-able. So we want to come up with new and creative forms of assessment which you can't automatically do using AI, or there's an AI component embedded in, but it's not going to ruin your grades and make you commit plagiarism. So I came up with the idea of getting students to create a multimedia presentation. So what they've got to do is they've got to bring together ideas, a concept, a script, images, music, and all sorts of things, and they've got to create a presentation on something like explain the Trinitarian theology of the Cappadocian Fathers, or explain something pertaining to the Council of Nicaea, something along those lines, some sort of creative assessment task. But the problem with doing that is you've then got to create the rubrics, okay? So you've got to give students the assessment task, but you've got to tell them what you have to do in it if you want to get a good grade. And it gets even more complicated because this is a class I teach across a number of levels. It includes undergraduates, it includes graduate students, and there's a difference for someone doing this course at the beginning of their bachelor's as opposed to the end of their master's. And in Australia, we have what's called AQF, the Australian Quality Framework, and that's something we have in education, and that tells you about the level that you're working at, whether it's undergraduate or graduate, and whether it's upper level graduate or lower level undergraduate. So I want to create a rubric for this very, very niche, this fancy little assessment task I've got, but it's also got to be matched on to the various AQF levels that we have in Australia. Now, normally, this would take me about 4 hours to come up with, but thanks to Perplexity Deep Think, it took me about 15 minutes overall. Let me show you what I did. Now, have a look at what it came up with. I've got the question there up at the top, but I've told it the rubrics I want it to create, and it's given me the rubrics, at each particular level. So what would be a high distinction at level 6, all the way down to what would be a fail at level 5. And when you've got all that done, you can then go up into the right-hand corner, click on something, and you can then create your own space, which is like your own landing page where you want to have it, create your own like mini website, or you can create a PDF, you can create a Microsoft Word doc, or even an Excel spreadsheet. There's a number of outputs you can use once you've come up with the product you want. So this was something I found immensely useful, and with a bit of tweaking, it was generally ready to go after about 15 minutes. The next thing I want to tell you about is Perplexity's own web browser called Comet. Now, what you've got to remember here is that for the last 30 years, Google has pretty much had something close to a monopoly on the web browser and search engine front. So much so that they almost ended up having to break up their company, or at least sell their web browser Chrome, and Perplexity was even willing to buy it for $34 billion. But you've got to understand that there is a transition going on between search engines and AI. So rather than have a web browser that does the search for you, people are going to start using AI to give you the answers. Now, this is really going to change the dynamics of how we access the internet and how we get our information. Now, you can see this happening already. If you do your average Google search, you will notice that you automatically get an AI summary at the top. But what is going to happen next is Google is going to create a type of assistant that you'll be able to use, similar to Monica, in such a way as you'll be able to bring in an AI assistant to help you curate or interrogate the information that you've just found. Based on what I've read, I think Claude is also going to create an AI assistant that you'll be able to use in Chrome. So you'll be able to have a Google search, if you like, in Google Gemini, but rather like Monica, you'll probably have a Claude AI agent on the side that you'll be able to click on and use. So that seems to be the direction where things are going. And this is why Comet is something of a recent invention. And I think it presages where we're going to be heading in the future. So you can see here the basic web browser in Comet. It gives you some great information up front, and one of the best things about it, I was able to automatically import pretty much most of my information from Chrome. So I was able to bring all of my bookmarks, all of my tabs, a lot of information. I did have to sign into a whole bunch of things again, such as emails and social media, but once you've done that, it's all then connected to Perplexity and it's all ready to go. And the search engine here, it functions very differently because you're not just doing a standard web browser search like in Firefox or Mozilla or Google. You're doing something which is a search on a topic through Comet, or you're getting access to various websites through Comet itself. So let me show you the sort of things that you have here in Comet. So, I've asked it, find Michael Bird books on Amazon.com, and I've written a few books, you would be glad to know. So it gives us there some of the main books I've written. Now, notice it hasn't given us a straight link to the Amazon page where all my books are stored, but it's pretty much given us a summary of what you would find on Amazon. Now, that's the key difference. It's pretty much giving you the information you would get from your search. It's not specializing in taking you to another website. Now, I'll be honest with you, there are some times when I want the information, and there are some times where I really just want to go to another website. And Comet specializes in the former, not the latter. If you want to do a search to go to a particular website, you can put the web address up in the top, but if you generally just want something like best mattresses in Bakersfield, well, you'll get a lot of information about best mattresses in Bakersfield, but it's not going to take you directly to the link of a shop called Best Mattresses in Bakersfield. That notwithstanding, I think Comet is a game changer. People are calling this a Google killer for a reason, and I do think it's going to take off. So I advise you, get Comet, play around with it. But one important caveat. I'm not at the point yet where I'm going to purchase things through websites on Comet, because that means I've got to put my financial information in there, and I'm not 100% aware of what are the security guarantees about how well my banking information is going to be protected if I put it in this AI platform, this AI web browser called Comet. I'm a little bit nervous about giving an AI browser access to my banking information. Now, I'm sure the good people at Perplexity are aware of this and have thought about it, but I just want to see how this version goes first, make sure all the bugs are worked out before I do my banking or purchasing through Comet. So I'm going to hang off a little bit. I'll probably use Chrome for buying things on Amazon or doing my shopping or my online banking. But yeah, this is something I may use in the future for that, but I just want to make sure the security elements are taken care of in Perplexity before I expose my financial information to it. Probably good advice you might want to take as well. And so there we are, despite the fact that I have a soft spot for Claude. And notwithstanding, I think, SciSpace is very underrated and, bang for buck, I think it is pretty good. For me, it was Perplexity for the win. It does a lot of really good things, and I've really enjoyed using it. I've got a lot of benefit out of it as well. And at the end of the day, that's what I'm trying to do. I'm not trying to launch a career here as a tech influencer by any stretch, but as an academic, I'm trying to be good at what I do, which means, how can I be a better lecturer? How can I be a better supervisor of students? How can I be a good administrator? And how can I be a good researcher? And what are the ways that I can leverage AI to help me do that, to help me think smarter, to be more efficient and more productive in what I do? That's what I've been trying to do in this video, explain to you the few things I've learned along the way. So let me know in the comments below if you have any questions. I'll do my best to answer them. Also, if you have any recommendations, please let me know as well. If there's anything I got wrong or there's anything I missed, I really do appreciate your feedback. Otherwise, thanks for watching, take care, and I hope you make the best of the AI tools that you're using.